It was -10 degrees on Christmas Eve. I could physically feel my eyelashes freezing together every time I blinked. I wasn't standing at a bus stop, and I wasn't lost in the woods. I was standing on the patio of my childhood home, shivering in a thin flannel shirt, watching my family open presents through the living room window. My dad had locked the sliding glass door and drawn the curtains just enough so I could see, but not be seen. My crime? I asked him to pass the salt at dinner, and he said I had an attitude tone. That was it. But as I stood there, hugging myself to keep my core temperature from dropping dangerously low, I saw headlights cut through the darkness of the driveway. It wasn't a police car. It wasn't a guest. It was a sleek, black stretch limousine. And the woman who stepped out of it was about to turn my father's entire existence into dust. She looked at me, shivering in the snow, then looked at the house, and said one word that I will never forget: demolish. To understand why my father left his 19-year-old son to freeze on Christmas, you have to understand the dynamic of my house. I'm the product of his first marriage. My mom passed away when I was 6, and my dad, well, he didn't mourn. He replaced. Within 6 months, he married Linda. Linda came with her own son, Kyle, who was 2 years younger than me. From the moment they moved in, I became the spare part. Kyle was the golden child. If Kyle broke a vase, it was an accident. If I broke a vase, I was clumsy and ungrateful. But the real shift happened when my dad's business started failing. He became bitter, angry, and obsessed with control. He couldn't control the market, so he controlled me. For the last 3 years, I've been paying rent to live in my own room. I bought my own groceries. I kept my head down, worked 2 jobs, and tried to save enough to move out. But every time I got close, my dad would invent a new fee. Electricity surcharge, he'd call it. Or holiday tax. I paid it because I had nowhere else to go. But this Christmas was supposed to be different. My grandmother, my dad's mom, had been traveling Europe for 5 years. She was a ghost to us, sending the occasional postcard but never calling. My dad terrified her. Or so he thought. He always told Linda, the old bat is probably senile by now, we just have to wait for the inheritance. He didn't know she was coming back. And he certainly didn't know that she had been reading every single email I sent her for the last decade. Let's go back to 6 p.m. Christmas dinner. The table was set perfectly. Linda had made a roast. Kyle was sitting there, smug as always, playing on his Switch at the table, something I would have been slapped for. I sat down and quietly began to eat. The tension was palpable. My dad was already 3 glasses of scotch deep. He was ranting about ungrateful millennials and how I didn't appreciate the roof over my head. I didn't bite. I just ate my peas. Then, I made the mistake. The roast was bland. I reached for the salt shaker, which was near his elbow. "Excuse me, Dad, can you pass the salt?" I asked. He slammed his fork down. The clatter echoed in the silent room. "Excuse me," he whispered. I said, "Can you pass the salt?" He stood up, his face turning a violent shade of purple. "You interrupt me while I am speaking? You think you can just demand things in my house after I let you live here out of the goodness of my heart?" It escalated fast. He grabbed my plate and threw it into the sink. "If you can't show respect, you don't eat." I stood up to leave the table, and he blocked my path. "No. You want to act cold? Go cool off." He grabbed me by the arm, his grip was bruising, and dragged me to the back patio door. I wasn't wearing a coat. Just jeans and a flannel shirt. He shoved me out into the snow and slammed the door. Click. He locked it. I pounded on the glass. "Dad, stop. It's freezing." He laughed. He actually laughed. Then he sat back down, picked up his wine glass, and gestured for Linda and Kyle to keep eating. Linda didn't even look up. Kyle smirked and waved at me. The first 10 minutes were manageable. I was angry, so the adrenaline kept me warm. But then the adrenaline faded, and the biting cold set in. The temperature was dropping rapidly. I checked my pockets, no phone. He had made us leave phones in a basket by the door for family time. I walked around the house trying the other doors. Locked. The garage keypad? Code changed. I was trapped in the fenced backyard. I went back to the patio door and watched. They were moving to the living room now. Kyle was tearing into a massive box, a PS5. My dad was opening a new set of golf clubs. They looked like a Norman Rockwell painting, if Norman Rockwell was a sociopath. My teeth started chattering uncontrollably. I could feel the numbness starting in my fingers. I realized, with a sudden jolt of terror, that he might actually leave me out here all night. Hypothermia isn't a joke. I banged on the window again, harder this time. My dad just reached over and closed the curtains, leaving only a small crack open so I could see the warmth I was denied. It had been 45 minutes. My feet felt like blocks of ice. I was huddled in the corner of the patio, trying to block the wind, when I saw the lights. A long, black car pulled up the long driveway. My dad lives in a secluded area, so we never get traffic. The car stopped right in front of the walkway. A driver in a full suit got out, opened the back door, and out stepped a woman in a thick fur coat with a cane that had a silver wolf's head handle. Grandmother. She didn't look senile. She looked like a general inspecting the front lines. She walked up the path, but instead of going to the front door, she walked around the side of the house toward the patio gate. She must have seen me. She unlatched the gate and walked right up to me. She took off her massive fur coat and wrapped it around me without saying a word. It was heavy and smelled like expensive perfume and safety. Grandma? I stuttered. She touched my freezing cheek with a gloved hand. Quiet, boy. Warm up. She turned to the sliding glass door. She didn't knock. She took the silver handle of her cane and smashed it against the glass. Crash. The safety glass shattered into a million pebbles. The sound cut through the silent house like a gunshot. My dad jumped up from the sofa, spilling his drink. Linda screamed. What the hell, my dad roared, storming toward the broken window. But he stopped dead when he saw who was standing amidst the broken glass. Mother, my dad whispered. His face went pale. What are you doing? You broke my window. Grandma stepped through the shattered frame, glass crunching under her boots. She helped me inside. The warmth of the living room hit me like a physical wall. I didn't break your window, Stephen, she said, her voice calm and terrifying. I broke my window. My dad looked confused. What are you talking about? I paid for this house. Grandma laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. You paid the mortgage with the allowance I sent you from the trust. You haven't made a profit in your business since 2015. I own the deed. I own the land. I own the very chair you are sitting on. She pointed to me. And you locked my grandson, the only one of you with a drop of decency, outside in sub-zero temperatures? My dad tried to backtrack. It was just discipline, Mom. He was being disrespectful. We were going to let him in. Liar, she spat. She looked around the living room, at the pile of expensive gifts, the decorations, the warmth. Then she looked at the driver who had followed us in. Jenkins, she said. Yes, madam? Evict them. My dad's jaw dropped. You can't do that. It's Christmas. You have 1 hour, Grandma said. Pack what you can carry. Leave the gifts. Leave the furniture. Leave the car. That's company property too. Linda started crying, wailing about how unfair this was. Kyle threw his controller at the TV. Grandma didn't flinch. She looked at my dad and said the word that ended his life as he knew it. Demolish. My dad looked confused. Demolish what? The argument? No, she smiled. The house. I've decided I don't like the layout. I'm going to level it. Tomorrow. The next hour was pure chaos. My dad was screaming into his phone, trying to call his lawyer, who apparently wasn't picking up on Christmas Eve. Linda was stuffing jewelry into a pillowcase. I just sat on the couch, wrapped in the fur coat, drinking hot cocoa that Jenkins had made for me. Grandma sat next to me, holding my hand. I'm sorry I was away so long, she whispered. I wanted to see if he would change. I gave him enough rope, and he didn't just hang himself, he hung the whole family. When the hour was up, 2 police officers arrived. Jenkins had called them to oversee the trespasser removal. Watching my dad being escorted off the property he thought he was king of. It was the best Christmas present I ever received. That was 6 months ago. A lot has changed. I know you guys want to know what happened to the house. She wasn't lying. She literally hired a demolition crew. 3 days after Christmas, my childhood home was a pile of rubble. My dad had to watch from the motel across the highway. He tried to sue her for illegal eviction, but it turns out Grandma's lawyers are sharks. Because I was a tenant paying rent and he locked me out in life-threatening conditions, he was actually facing criminal charges for endangerment. Grandma gave him a choice: drop the lawsuit and sign over full custody of my college fund, which he had been dipping into, or go to jail. He signed. My dad and Linda are divorced now. Once the money dried up, Linda realized my dad wasn't the tycoon he pretended to be. She took Kyle and moved back in with her parents. Kyle actually messaged me on Instagram last week asking if I could buy him a new Xbox because his mom is broke. I blocked him. My dad is living in a studio apartment, working as a mid-level manager at a logistics firm, a job Grandma arranged for him because she didn't want him starving, just humbled. He emails me sometimes, trying to act like nothing happened, asking to meet for coffee. I haven't replied. As for me? Grandma didn't just save me that night. She took me in. I'm living in her penthouse in the city while I finish my degree. But she's not spoiling me, she's teaching me. I manage her calendar, I sit in on board meetings, and I'm learning how to manage the estate. She says the money skips a generation for a reason. Last night, we were having dinner, just the 2 of us, and I reached for the salt. I hesitated, a reflex from years of walking on eggshells. Grandma noticed. She picked up the salt shaker, placed it firmly in my hand, and said, "In this house, you speak up. And you never, ever freeze. Best Christmas ever." If you think my dad got what he deserved, hit that like button. And if you would have called the cops on your own parents, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories of karma being served ice cold. See you in the next one.